Why did Russell Brand smash into my car? Back in the days when people occasionally read words printed on paper, I spent a few years pretending to be a film critic for Alternative Press magazine. In that capacity, his verbatim reply never, ever. Fast forward 2 years, I am getting rear-ended in West Hollywood. In my car. It all began, as these things do, on Sunset Boulevard. I was on my way to, he gives me one of those six-way handshakes. Bad enough when it's two white dudes blocking traffic on Sunset Boulevard, but definitely worse when one is a British millionaire. In any event, I was just a few months post spinal surgery, spinal surgery number 2, sadly so getting rammed from behind by some power clown in a Land Rover wasn't exactly high on my to-do list. I checked the rear view. I am sure everyone has different strategies for this type of situation, but I employed the one I foolishly used in the mid-90s when a small town cop pulled up behind my disabled jalopy, which contained a small but not insignificant amount of contraband and a half-naked woman. I immediately got out of the car and marched over to the vehicle behind mine. Somehow, but the point, I think, is this: the driver was mildly terrified. I could see it on him. The first thing I noticed was that he was tall, almost as tall as I am. Which is not something. Turned out I'd been rear-ended by Russell Brand. Only I didn't sorry, mate. Are you okay? Yeah, I think so. You? Well, I feel like a bit of an hole for hitting your car. You're not wearing any shoes. No. I guess not. I looked at my car. He was right. I let a few moments pass before I acquiesced. At which point, I was cringing my way through the handshake when it dawned on me, almost it's that comedian. For a hot second, so I *ed off toward the Roxy and hit a side street to find parking. I banged a U-turn, which was thoughtful of him, I have to admit. The next day, I found out that Brand had finalized his divorce from Katy Perry just 5 days before the accident. True to his word, related most iconic comedians Wonderwall International.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,